Dusky, filtered light seeped through the battered corridors of the Veyroni holding facility as Jason Hale, hands bound at the wrists, was shoved forward by a lupine sentry. The guard's claws bit through the ragged fabric of Jason's uniform, digging into flesh, but Jason gritted his teeth and refused to wince. He'd learned that dignity was its own armor here. If you surrendered that, you surrendered everything. As they rounded a corner, the memory of the disastrous peace mission pressed in on him. Energy blasts tearing through the air, shouts echoing in the diplomatic hall, the sickening sight of the human envoy's body sprawled beneath a Veyroni's talons. That had been the start of it all, the failed truce, the ambush, and the shameful capture that now defined his days. They reached the infirmary, a cramped space overwhelmed by the tang of antiseptic and the sharper scent of Veyroni blood. 4 injured soldiers sprawled across makeshift cots, their silvery skin marked by swirling bioluminescent patterns, fox-like ears pinned back in agony. The chief medic, Vark, a tall, broad-shouldered Veyroni with a perpetual scowl, wasted no time. "Another training mishap," Vark barked, glancing at Jason with thinly veiled contempt. "You, human, see if you can do better than the last one." Jason gave a curt nod and knelt beside the nearest injured soldier. The Veyroni's limb was twisted at an unnatural angle, mottled with bruising. Jason's hands moved with methodical precision, his voice low and steady. "I'm not here to hurt you," he murmured, selecting a splint from the tray. "This will sting, but I promise it'll help." The injured Veyroni eyed him warily but did not pull away. Jason worked quickly, aligning the bones and wrapping the limb, speaking all the while, soft encouragements, explanations of what he was doing. The tension in the room shifted subtly. Suspicion gave way to grudging curiosity, even respect. Vark watched with narrowed eyes, arms folded across his chest. "You learn fast. For a human," Vark muttered, almost as if the words cost him something. Jason gave a brief, tired smile. "We have to. Our bodies don't heal as quickly as yours." Before Vark could retort, a piercing alarm blared. Red emergency lights pulsed across the walls. The infirmary erupted into chaos as soldiers scrambled for weapons and orders were shouted over the din. "Intruders!" someone yelled. "Insurgents inside the perimeter!" Vark's gaze snapped to Jason, suspicion reignited. Without a word, he seized Jason by the arm and shoved him toward a storage alcove. The door clanged shut, the lock snicking into place. Jason waited, breath shallow, until the footsteps receded. He drew the scalpel he'd palmed during the confusion and knelt by the lock. The mechanism was crude. He'd seen worse in field hospitals back home. With a few deft twists, the lock popped open. Jason eased the door open and slipped into the smoke-choked hallway, heart hammering. The facility was in chaos. Blaster fire crackled in the distance, acrid smoke coiling through the air. Jason moved low and fast, ducking past debris, following the currents of fleeing soldiers and retreating guards. He rounded a corner and glimpsed a striking figure up ahead. A female Veyroni, her silvery skin shimmering with shifting blue and silver swirls, golden eyes fierce with purpose, a silver-blue fur tail lashing behind her. For a split second, Jason hesitated. This was his chance. He could slip away, find a way out in the chaos. But something about the woman's bearing, her urgency, tugged at him. An explosion rocked the corridor, showering sparks and forcing Jason's hand. He darted after the mysterious Veyroni, plunging deeper into the labyrinthine complex. Elsewhere, Princess Lyria pressed a bloodied hand to her torn ceremonial cloak, frustration sharpening her every word. "I will not leave without Shira," she hissed at her protector, Riven, whose ears flicked with anxiety beneath his battered helmet. "Your Highness, it's not safe," Riven began, but she cut him off. "Safety is meaningless if I abandon her. She is my soul link. Do you not feel her pain?" Lyria's golden eyes blazed. A chill swept through their bond, sorrow and fear and fierce loyalty blending with her own heartbeat. The sacred enclosure was in ruins, charred beams collapsing, the air heavy with the coppery tang of blood. Shira was gone. A trail of deep blue and silver fur and fresh blood led away, weaving through ancient passageways known only to the palace's innermost circle. Lyria knelt, pressing her fingers to the bloody smear on the floor. She closed her eyes and listened, not with ears, but with the thread of her soul. There, Shira's pain, her confusion, her stubborn will to live. Lyria opened her eyes, determination hardening her features. "This way," she whispered, and Riven followed, blade drawn and eyes scanning the shadows. They followed the trail through twisting corridors, past shattered murals and flickering lights, until it ended at a battered medical supply room. The door hung half off its hinges. Inside, the scene was one of tense stillness. Shira's massive, fox-like form was curled protectively in the center of the room, deep blue and silver fur matted with blood. Her golden eyes were watchful, but calm. Kneeling at her side was a human, Jason, hands stained crimson, voice gentle as he coaxed the wounded beast to relax. "You're safe now," Jason murmured, running a soothing hand along Shira's flank. "Let me help you. Easy." Lyria burst into the room, weapon raised, Riven at her side. They froze at the sight. Shira, who trusted no one outside the royal bond, was calm beneath the human's touch. The bond between guardian and princess shimmered with confusion and hope. "Step away from her," Riven commanded, blade aimed at Jason, but Lyria's heart stuttered. Shira's golden gaze met hers, serene and trusting, and Jason's hands never faltered from their careful work. Lyria's voice trembled between warning and wonder. "Who are you?" she demanded. Jason lifted his hands slowly. "A medic. I only want to help." Shira's tail thumped weakly, and Lyria felt the echo of gratitude through their bond. Torn between protocol and the pull of her heart, Lyria lowered her weapon, just enough. "Then, help her," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. And Jason, with gentle hands and a healer's resolve, bent once more to tend to the wounded guardian as the tension in the room slowly began to thaw. In the royal healing chamber, Lyria paced with restless urgency, the long train of her ceremonial cloak whispering across polished stone. The air was thick with the cool scent of healing balms and the faintest metallic trace of blood. Anxiety throbbed in her chest, her own and Shira's, their bond flickering between worry and relief like a candle in a storm. Yet now, beneath the surface, something else pulsed. She felt not only Shira's steady presence, but a ripple of alien sensations: exhaustion, longing, and a stubborn, battered hope that could not be her own. The spiritual guide, Mael, stood in the shadows near the window, his silvery fur streaked with age, blue eyes thoughtful. He watched Lyria with concern. "Your Highness?" Mael intoned, his voice as soft as velvet. "The soul bond is behaving in ways our ancestors never foresaw. You sense more than Shira. You are echoing the human, the medic." Lyria's hands clenched and unclenched at her sides. "Jason Hale," she said, the name strange and weighty on her tongue. Mael nodded gravely. "Through Shira, you and the human are beginning to touch one another's essence. Be wary, princess. Such entanglements may strengthen or unravel what you are." Inside the chamber, Jason knelt beside Shira's massive form, his hair sweat-damp and his movements precise. Shira's sides rose and fell more easily now. Jason's touch was sure, his voice low and soothing as he replaced a dressing and checked the healing wound. "You're a miracle," he whispered to Shira, smiling as her golden eyes blinked in understanding. "Hold still, big girl. Just one more stitch." The Veroni medics watched, uncertain at first, but Jason's gentle confidence soon won their respect. His hands worked with a blend of human ingenuity and deep empathy, improvising where their medicine failed, calming Shira with murmured encouragement. One medic, a young female with pale blue swirls, leaned toward Vark and whispered, "He sees her, not just as a beast, but as a being." Vark grunted, grudging admiration softening the set of his jaw. "He has a healer's heart, even if it beats in a human chest." As Jason finished, a wave of exhaustion crashed over him, dragging him to the edge of collapse. He swayed, blinking spots from his vision. Lyria, standing nearby, lunged forward to catch him. Their hands met, her fingers cool, his warm and trembling. At the instant of contact, the world tilted. A surge of memories and feelings flooded between them, impossibly vivid. The scent of Earth's rain-soaked woods, a boy running wild beneath emerald canopies, the ache of loneliness, the fragile seed of hope that stubbornly survived every disappointment. Lyria reeled, gasping as images flickered through her mind. Jason's mother's lullabies, the stinging shame of being different, the iron resolve to heal rather than harm. She tore her hand away, stumbling back, cheeks flushed and heart pounding. The room seemed to spin with the force of it, the chamber walls suddenly too close. Jason sagged to his knees, disoriented. "What was that?" he managed. Lyria shook her head, voice trembling. I don't know. I felt everything." Before either could speak further, Riven burst through the door, sword at the ready, eyes narrowed with suspicion. He took in the tableau, Jason on the floor, Lyria pale and shaken, Shira watching with unblinking calm. "Your Highness, are you harmed?" Riven demanded, stepping protectively in front of Lyria. Lyria straightened, summoning her composure. "No. I am well, thanks to our guest." Riven's tail lashed, uncertainty warring with duty. "He is still a prisoner." Lyria's chin lifted, resolve hardening her voice. "He is no longer a captive. Jason Hale is our guest. See that he is treated as such." Riven hesitated, then bowed stiffly. "As you command, Princess." Jason managed a weak smile. "Thank you." Later, Jason awoke to the gentle caress of sunlight and the softest bed he had known in months. Plush pillows cradled his head, and cool sheets smelled faintly of lavender and alien spices. For a moment he lay still, letting the unfamiliar comfort soak in. But sleep had brought no peace. He remembered running, on 4 legs, not 2, through dew-laced grass beneath a silver sky, the wind singing in his ears, a wild sense of belonging thrumming in his bones. He remembered the joy of a connection so deep it blurred the line between beast and man, self and other. He shivered, rubbing his face as the dream dissolved. "That wasn't just me," he whispered, unsettled. A soft chuff drew his attention. Shira, wound bandaged and eyes clear, padded to his bedside. The great beast nudged his hand with a cold nose, then pressed her head gently against his palm. A rush of calm and trust enveloped him. The door slid open with a whisper. Lyria entered, regal in posture yet visibly unsettled. Her swirling patterns shimmered with restless light. She paused, composing herself, as Shira looked from her to Jason and back again. Jason sat up, heart pounding anew. "Princess?" Lyria inclined her head, her gaze searching his. "You are feeling better?" He nodded. "I think so. Thank you for the hospitality. It's a rare thing these days." She managed a faint smile, but her golden eyes were stormy. Shira nuzzled Jason's hand again, then turned to Lyria, brushing against her outstretched fingers. As both of them touched Shira, the link surged, brighter and sharper than before. Jason gasped. He felt Lyria's fear, her desperate hope, and the crushing weight of responsibility. In return, she felt his awe, his confusion, and the flicker of longing he tried to bury. Lyria steadied herself, voice low. "You feel it too, don't you?" the bond. Through Shira, we're connected. Jason's throat worked. It's impossible, but it's happening. She drew a slow breath, the weight of confession settling between them. Without Shira, I cannot claim my birthright. Our soul link is sacred, meant to bind the royal line to the spirit of our world. The attack was designed to break us apart, to shatter what I am. Jason frowned. The insurgents knew? They wanted to sever the bond? Lyria nodded. Yes. If they succeed, my right to rule, and perhaps the stability of the Veroni, will be lost. Jason's hand tightened on Shira's fur. Who would do that? Lyria's eyes grew distant, and suddenly, through their shared bond, she projected a series of images: a tall Veroni with striking indigo markings, a cold smile, secret meetings in shadowed halls. Jason's vision swam as understanding dawned. Siran, he breathed. Your cousin? Lyria's lips pressed together in a bitter line. He covets the throne. He has always resented the bond that chose me, and the peace I want with your people. Jason shook his head. He orchestrated the attack. The chaos, the bloodshed. He planned it all. Lyria's voice trembled with urgency. I need your help. Shira trusts you, and through our bond, I believe I can trust you as well. But if Siren discovers our alliance... She trailed off, fear sharp in her thoughts. Jason studied her, drawn to the strength in her eyes and the vulnerability she tried to hide. We'll have to be careful. But I won't turn away. Not from you. Not from this. Romantic tension simmered in the quiet that followed. Shira's tail swept the floor with lazy contentment. Jason's hand lingered on the beast's flank, his eyes locked on Lyria's. Every accidental touch, fingers brushing as they shared water, hands meeting as they adjusted bandages, sent electric shocks through their bodies, the intimacy of shared thoughts blurring old boundaries. Lyria drew closer, unable to hide her fascination with this human's resilience, the way he faced her world's dangers with stubborn courage and a healer's soul. You are unlike anyone I have known, she murmured. Jason smiled, rueful and hopeful all at once. Maybe it's the earth in me, or maybe it's just you. Their bond shimmered, thoughts and feelings flowing more freely, dissolving the last barriers between them as Shira watched with wise, golden eyes, silent guardian of a connection that could change two worlds. They spent days cloistered within the sanctuary's ancient walls, letting the world beyond fade into a blur of duty, danger, and whispered secrets. Here, with Shira as their conduit and confidant, Lyria and Jason dared to explore the limits of their extraordinary bond. The connection, once tenuous and bewildering, became a living current between them, feelings and memories flowing back and forth, sometimes gentle as rain, sometimes a torrent. Jason was the first to show Lyria how to share memories deliberately. With Shira's warm flank pressed between them, he closed his eyes and summoned the image. Blue-green earth floating against the velvet black of space, its continents wreathed in white clouds, spinning in serene isolation. Lyria gasped, wonder filling her golden eyes as the vision blossomed in her mind. Is that your home? She whispered, voice trembling with awe. He nodded. That's Earth. I used to dream about it when I was a boy, out there, camping with my family. Let me show you. He let the memory unfurl, a crackling campfire in the shadow of towering redwoods, the peaty scent of moss and pine, his father's laughter rolling through the dusk. He felt Lyria's presence in the memory, her quiet delight, her curiosity mingling with his nostalgia. Lyria, emboldened, reached for her own deepest recollections. A flock of luminous skywings migrating across the violet plains of Veyron, their wings painting ribbons of light against the setting suns. The press of tradition, the weight of 1,000 expectations etched into the silver swirls on her skin, and the solace she'd found in Shira's companionship when palace halls grew cold. Jason felt her longing, the loneliness at the heart of royalty, and offered silent understanding. Sometimes their exchanges were wordless, a shiver of fear, a surge of joy, the faint taste of sorrow. Other times, they spoke quietly as the hours slipped by, their hands entwined in Shira's fur. "Does it ever get easier?" Jason asked one dusk, shadows growing long as the light faded. Lyria's lips quirked into a rueful smile. "You mean being chosen for a destiny you did not ask for? Perhaps. I do not think I would have survived it without Shira. Or without you." Shira, basking in their shared warmth, let out a soft, approving huff. The beast's approval was so unambiguous that Jason found himself laughing, the sound echoing in the high, domed chamber. But the fragile peace could not last. Intrigue wove tighter around the palace, threads pulled by hands both seen and unseen. One morning, King Villar summoned Lyria to his private audience chamber. His eyes were sharp, his silver fur immaculate, but there was a tremor of fear beneath his kingly bearing. "This bond of yours," Velar said, voice edged with warning, "is tainted. The council fears what it cannot understand. The human must be removed after the next session. And you, daughter," he fixed her with a steely gaze, "you will submit to the cleansing. No more delay." Lyria bowed her head in outward compliance, but her mind raced. "Yes, father, I will obey." He did not see the flicker of rebellion in her eyes as she left. That night, Lyria found Jason in the shadowed corridor outside the sanctuary, his features drawn tight with worry. "We have little time," she whispered, drawing him into the gloom. "My father means to banish you, and to sever our bond." Jason squeezed her hand, their fingers interlacing. "Then we need proof of Saran's treachery." They devised a plan in hurried whispers, blending Jason's human tech, miniature scanners and a light dampening cloak, with Lyria's native stealth. Together, they crept through the palace's labyrinth, guided by Shira's silent presence. At the door to Siran's quarters, Lyria disabled the security glyphs while Jason rigged a sensor to jam the alarms. Inside, the suite was dim and opulent, all velvet and glass, smelling faintly of rare flowers. They rifled through data tablets and coded letters, searching for anything that might expose Siran's plot. Footsteps echoed in the hallway, approaching, deliberate. Lyria tugged Jason into a narrow alcove behind a heavy curtain. Pressed chest to chest, their breath mingling, the air charged with fear and something unspoken. Siran entered with Mael at his side, voices pitched low. Through a slit in the curtain, Jason could see the sharp lines of Siran's jaw, the cold cunning in his eyes. "The council is ready," Siran murmured. "The poison will be found in the humans' quarters by dawn. Lyria will have no choice but to submit to the cleansing, and the human will be gone." Mael's voice wavered. "And Shira?" Siran's smile was razor thin. "Shira will not survive the night. The blame will be clear. I will inherit the throne." Jason's grip on Lyria tightened. She pressed a warning finger to his lips, her own heart pounding against his. As Siran and Mael departed, they slipped from the alcove, hearts racing. They hurried back through secret passages, adrenaline and fear mingling with the electric thrill of being so close. Their hands remained entwined. Shira, awaiting them at the sanctuary entrance, gave an unmistakable wag of her bushy tail, eyes gleaming with encouragement. Jason let out a shaky laugh. "Even your guardian approves." Lyria blushed, her thumb brushing his. "She has good instincts." But safety was an illusion. As dawn broke, the sanctuary doors crashed open. Riven entered, flanked by guards, his face a mask of duty and heartbreak. "Jason Hale, by order of the king, you are under arrest for the attempted poisoning of Shira," Riven announced. "Evidence was found in your chamber." Jason's eyes widened. "That's impossible. I would never." Lyria stepped forward, her voice ringing with command. "By right of my blood, I claim the privilege of royal custody. Jason remains under my protection until the council hears the truth." Riven hesitated, torn between loyalty and doubt. He nodded, lowering his blade. As you will, princess. Inside the sanctuary, Lyria, Jason, and Shira gathered in a tight circle. The planted evidence, a vial of crystalline powder, sat on the floor before them, its presence a silent accusation. Jason turned to Lyria, frustration edging his voice. How do we prove I'm innocent? They'll believe Siren over me. Lyria placed a hand on Shira's head, and Jason did the same. The bond flared between them, images rising. Shira's memories of the royal gardens, the scent of rare flowers, the sharp tang of the same poison now in the vial. Lyria's eyes widened. That flower, starshade, only grows in the royal gardens, and only one person tends them. Siran, Jason breathed. Shira's memory shifted. An image of Siran kneeling among the blooms, hands dusted with golden pollen, his face twisted in malice. The memory was undeniable, the truth searing. Lyria exhaled, relief and fear mingling. We have proof. Shira's memories cannot be faked. Jason met her gaze, hope rekindled. Then we bring this to the council. Let them see what Siran has done. Through the long hours of the night, the three of them prepared their case. They gathered testimony, organized memories, and rehearsed their arguments. The sanctuary became a war room, a place of both strategy and fragile hope. Shira curled protectively around them, her golden eyes promising strength. Dawn's first light spilled across the chamber floor. The moment of reckoning drew near. The council's decision would shape not only Lyria's fate, but Jason's as well. Holding hands, with Shira close, they faced the coming storm together, their bond unbreakable. The council chamber crackled with tension, an atmosphere so thick Jason could taste it, metallic and sharp at the back of his throat. Flickering hollow lamps cast wavering shadows across the crescent of Veyroni elders, each draped in ceremonial blue and silver. Siran stood at the chamber's center, his indigo-marked face carefully arranged in a mask of concern. The vial of crystalline poison glinted in his palm as he addressed the council with practiced gravity. I grieve for what has befallen Shira and for my cousin's distress, Siran intoned. But the evidence is plain. The human, Jason Hale, brought foreign toxins into our sanctuary. It is an act of sabotage, perhaps even of war. Murmurs rippled through the chamber, counselors exchanging wary glances. Jason kept his eyes fixed on Lyria, who stood at his side, back unbending, gaze unwavering. Shira sat at her feet, hackles barely contained, her golden eyes burning with intelligence. Lyria raised her hand. Honored council, may I examine the vial? Siran's smile flickered, hesitation, quickly masked. Of course, cousin. We all desire truth. He handed the vial to Lyria, who stepped forward, her movements measured and regal. She crouched beside Shira, unstoppered the vial, and held it beneath the beast's sensitive nose. Shira inhaled deeply, then swung her massive head toward Siran. A deep growl rumbled in her chest. Without warning, she lunged, her nose pressing hard against Siran's sleeve. Siran jerked back, feigning surprise. Control your beast! But Lyria was already moving, her voice ringing clear. There's more evidence than this poison. Shira, show us. She gently pulled Siran's sleeve back, exposing 3 fresh scratches, red and raw, not yet fully healed. These marks, Lyria said, letting the council see, are from Shira. She defended herself against her attacker only yesterday. The marks are new, counselors, and they match the wounds she carries. The chamber erupted. Some counselors shouted demands for silence, others pressed forward to see. Siran tried to pull away, but Lyria held him fast, her strength surprising. Jason stepped forward, holding up a data tablet. There's more. Siran's financial records show large transfers to mercenary accounts. Here are intercepted messages, coded but unmistakable. All point to Siran orchestrating not just this attack, but the deaths that preceded it. Siren's composure shattered. Lies, fabrications, Lyria cut him off, voice fierce. The poison in this vial is distilled from the starshade flower, found only in the royal gardens. And who tends those gardens, council? Only Siren. A counselor stood, tail lashing. Do you deny these accusations, Siren? In the chaos, Siren's eyes darted. He spun, shoving past a pair of guards, trying to bolt for the exit. Shira moved like lightning, intercepting him with a snarl. The guard subdued him, forcing him to his knees. King Valar stood, his presence quelling the tumult. Siran, for the crimes of treason and murder, you will answer to this council. Let none doubt the evidence presented here. For a long moment, silence reigned. The council's stern faces reflected relief, anger, and suspicion. Siran glared at Jason and Lyria, hatred unmasked. But even as the king pronounced the verdict, a new tension swelled in the chamber. Rumors of the corrupted bond, of Lyria and Jason's unnatural connection, drifted in poisonous whispers through the crowd. Eyes flicked toward them, wary and uncertain. In the confusion, Jason's hand brushed Lyria's. Their fingers tangled, warm and trembling. A private spark leapt between them, trust, gratitude, and something more, forged in survival. Are you all right? Jason whispered. Lyria squeezed his hand, voice low. We're not safe yet. Saran's allies will not give up so easily. The night fell heavy and anxious. Jason was escorted back to his quarters under guard. Lyria returned to her chambers, but neither found rest. The corridors seemed to pulse with threat, shadows shifting in every corner. It began as a whisper, a coded knock at Lyria's door. Riven appeared, breathless, sword drawn. Saran's loyalists, they're moving. The guards are compromised. We must run, now. Within minutes, Lyria, Jason, and Shira slipped through a servant's passage, ducking low as alarms began to wail. From the upper windows, torches flickered in the courtyards, figures moving fast, too organized to be palace guards. They darted through the moonlit gardens, Shira leading with uncanny precision. At the edge of the woods, Lyria paused, breath ragged. This way, Shira knows the old trails. Jason nodded, adrenaline sharpening his senses. The night air tasted richer, scents swirling in layers, earth, water, approaching enemies. He moved without thinking, steps light and precise, his body following Shira's cues as if they shared the same instincts. Lyria watched him in the dappled shadows, awe flickering in her eyes. You move like one of us, she murmured. Jason hesitated, noticing the same. His balance had shifted, footsteps silent, eyes adjusting easily to the darkness. The changes ran deeper than he realized. The trio raced through bramble and undergrowth, slipping between silver-barked trees as shouts echoed behind them. The bond between them thrummed, Jason's senses heightened, Lyria's instincts razor-sharp, Shira the axis of their unity. At a moonlit stream, Lyria stopped, laying a gentle hand on Jason's arm. Wait, your movements, they're different, more fluid, more Veroni. Jason flexed his fingers, watching them move. I feel it. The connection is changing me. She reached for his face, her touch soft. And I can sense your thoughts, your feelings. It's as if there's no barrier left. He smiled, both exhilarated and afraid. We'll need every advantage. Guided by Shira, they pressed on, skirting the edge of the wilds until a sheer cliff rose before them. Nestled against the rock face was a structure, Siren's hidden stronghold, camouflaged in ancient stone and alien flora. Lyria signaled for silence. The bond flared bright between them, thoughts and plans passing with no need for words. They moved as one, Jason scaling the wall, Lyria disabling the door's glyph, Shira circling to create a diversion. Inside, the stronghold was a den of secrets. Jason hacked the security console while Lyria rifled through encrypted tablets. At last, they found it. Files and hollow recordings detailing Saran's plots. The original attack on the human envoy, the assassination attempts on the royal family, payment ledgers for mercenaries. Footsteps thundered outside, Saran's guards closing in. Jason grabbed the data module, his mind linking with Lyria's through Shira. Together, they transmitted the evidence directly to the king and council, the files streaming through their bond with blistering clarity. "We have to go," Jason urged. They darted through a side tunnel as alarms blared behind them. Shira led the way into the dense forest, the sky paling toward dawn. By the time the first rays of sunlight slipped through the trees, the trio had found shelter in a mossy cave, exhaustion crashing down like a wave. They collapsed together, breathless, battered, but triumphant. Outside, distant horns signaled chaos in the stronghold. In the hush of the cave, Jason reached for Lyria's hand. Their fingers twined, warmth spilling across the gap between species. For the first time, the bond between them felt as personal as it was mystical. A promise, forged in fire and shared survival, as the morning crept quietly into their new world. The coronation approached with the weight of a storm gathering just beyond sight. The grand hall, carved from pale stone and studded with living crystal, pulsed with tension. Veroni nobles filled the space, their silvery fur and swirling patterns gleaming beneath the floating lights. Whispers fluttered through the crowd like startled birds, questions about Princess Lyria's worthiness, about the presence of the humans standing at the edge of the dais. Shira sat at Lyria's side, massive and regal, gold eyes calm but vigilant. Every breath the Guardian took seemed to hush the doubters. Jason, dressed in a simple tunic of midnight blue, lingered near a column, neither prisoner nor quite a guest. He watched Lyria, heart pounding with pride and something sharper, fear for her, for them, for all that could be lost with one wrong move. Elder Varen stepped forward, his mane frosted with age, voice ringing through the chamber. "Let the rites begin. Let the bond between guardian and heir be witnessed by all." He gestured to the altar at the far end. The crystal of accord, ancient and faceted, pulsing with inner light. Lyria's steps were measured, each stride echoing with the weight of tradition. Shira matched her pace, tail sweeping the marble. Jason watched, feeling the bond between the three of them stretch taut. Alive, electric, more than spiritual. He felt Lyria's nerves, her fierce determination. He felt Shira's reassurance, a steady thrum in his mind. Just as Lyria reached the base of the altar, the chamber doors crashed open with a metallic thunder. Siron strode in, defiant, a jagged energy weapon clutched in his fist. A handful of his supporters flanked him, faces set in grim resolve. "Enough!" Siron's voice boomed. "You will not crown a traitor. Her bond is tainted, her mind twisted by alien influence." A gasp rippled through the crowd. The king rose, but Siron leveled his weapon, not at Lyria, but at Shira. "Step away, cousin, or I end this beast and shatter your claim forever." Lyria's breath froze in her chest. "No." Time seemed to fracture. Jason moved without thought, a single instinct driving him: protect. He vaulted over the low railing, sprinted past stunned guards, and hurled himself between Siren's weapon and Shira. The blast struck him squarely in the chest. For an instant, the world was silent and brilliant with pain. Jason fell, his vision narrowing to shards of light. He heard Lyria's voice, distant and raw, and felt Shira's panic surge through their bond. "Jason!" Lyria screamed, reaching for him with trembling hands. Through the agony, Jason's mind opened, doors thrown wide. He felt Lyria's heart beating with his, Shira's fierce protectiveness burning in his veins. Their consciousnesses fused, thoughts and emotions flowing between them with impossible clarity. In that suspended moment, they moved as one. Shira lunged at Siren, jaws snapping, knocking the weapon aside. Lyria swept forward, her movements seamless, instinctively using the defensive techniques she had absorbed from Jason through their bond. Her foot hooked Siren's leg, sending him sprawling. Jason, barely conscious, anchored the connection. He shaped it into a shield, weaving their energy into a protective barrier around Lyria, Shira, and himself. The second blast from Siren's weapon dissipated in a shimmer of light, harmless as rain. The hall erupted. Nobles cried out, some ducking for cover, others watching in awe as the three moved in harmony. Siran, desperate, scrambled to his feet, but Shira pinned him with a single warning growl. Elder Varen's voice, thunderous and sure, cut through the chaos. Enough! Witness what has occurred. This is no corruption, but a miracle. The bond has become something new, something greater. At that moment, the crystal of accord flared with colors never before seen, violet, gold, emerald, and silver, swirling in patterns that danced along the walls and over every face. Gasps of astonishment filled the chamber. Varen turned to the king. Your Majesty, the accord does not lie. The bond is pure, transformed by courage, by trust, by love. King Valar's eyes shone with tears, of relief, of shame, of pride. He descended from his throne, knelt at Lyria's side, and gently helped Jason to his feet. My daughter, the king declared, you have shown a new path. The council recognizes your bond and your heart. You are the rightful heir, and you, Jason Hale, are no longer outsider, but kin. Siran's supporters wilted, hope extinguished. Guards seized him, dragging him away as the nobles turned, not with suspicion, but with newfound respect toward the trio on the dais. Varen lifted his staff, voice ringing out. Let this be known. A new chapter begins this day. The bond between Vaironi and human, between soul and guardian, is not a weakness, but our greatest strength. As the celebration began, music swelled and the crowd pressed forward with cautious joy. Lyria stood at the altar, radiant, her hand clasped in Jason's. Shira curled around them, head high, a living banner of unity. Jason leaned close, voice soft but sure. Are you ready for this, princess? Lyria smiled, golden eyes bright with hope and certainty. Not alone, but together, with you and with Shira, I am. They stood in the heart of the hall, watched by two peoples and the silent, luminous crystal. Their connection, once a risk, once a rumor, was now a bridge between worlds, and the beginning of a legend neither dared to imagine. Days passed in a golden blur as Lyria assumed her role as heir, her presence in the palace at once familiar and entirely new. The air was thick with the scent of change. Old banners came down, fresh colors rose, and everywhere people whispered of what had passed and what might yet come. Through it all, Jason remained at Lyria's side, no longer a captive, not only an advisor, but beloved. Their bond endured, evolving with them, no longer reliant on Shira alone, but running between them as a quiet, living thread, subtle and constant. Each evening, when the great marble halls stilled and the council's voices faded into memory, Lyria and Jason found one another. Sometimes it was in the hush of the sanctuary gardens, fireflies darting among the silver-blossomed trees. Sometimes it was in the privacy of Lyria's study, candlelight flickering over ancient scrolls and human datapads alike. They sat together in the shadows, shoulders touching, sometimes talking softly, sometimes sharing long silences. Their thoughts twined together, intimate, wordless, understood as only those truly joined can know. One evening, Lyria let her head rest against Jason's shoulder, her voice a near whisper. I thought the bond would disappear once the danger passed, that it was only for survival, but it's still here, changed. Jason smiled, fingers tracing slow circles over her hand. I feel it too. It's like breathing, always there, even when I forget to notice. She turned, eyes shimmering with vulnerability. Does it frighten you, being so close? He hesitated, searching her gaze. It did, at first. I've spent so long feeling alone, even among my own kind. I never thought I'd find this connection, especially not here. She reached up, brushing a stray lock of hair from his brow. I never imagined it either. Not with a human. Not with anyone. There was a soft wonder in her words, and Jason let himself lean into it. As the days wore on, the palace itself changed. Siren's conspiracy, once a festering wound, became the catalyst for sweeping reforms. Lyria, with Jason and Shira at her side, led the council in debate after debate. Old laws that favored secrecy and suspicion fell away. In their place, cautious diplomatic overtures unfurled toward the humans. Delegates arrived, sometimes bristling with uncertainty, but Shira's serene presence seemed to soothe even the most skeptical. The council, once wary and aloof, found themselves nodding along with Jason's insights, especially as Shira's loyalty never wavered. There were moments of resistance, of course. A few nobles still eyed Jason with thinly veiled suspicion, but as the weeks passed, suspicion faded into acceptance, and acceptance into respect. Lyria's unwavering support, the visible trust between Jason and Shira, and Jason's calm steadiness in every crisis became undeniable. Yet, it was the quiet hours, away from watchful eyes, that mattered most. In the moonlit sanctuary gardens, Lyria and Jason walked among the whispering trees. Shira padded ahead, her massive tail swishing contentedly, always giving them just enough privacy to be alone. One night, beneath a canopy of glowing blossoms, Lyria let her guard drop completely. She turned to Jason, her hands trembling ever so slightly. I fear I am not enough, she confessed. That the changes I've set in motion will falter. That I'll lose myself. To tradition, to expectation, to this bond I barely understand. Jason took her hands in his, grounding her. You're stronger than you know. I've seen your fear, but I've also seen your courage. You chose to trust me when you didn't have to. You chose to fight for Shira, for your people, for something better. That isn't weakness, that's leadership. Lyria's lips trembled with a tentative smile. You sound like you've done this before. He shook his head, laughter soft in the night. Never. But I know what it is to be afraid of not belonging. To want to run, and at the same time, want to stay more than anything. Their eyes met, the bond between them humming, vibrant and warm. Do you want to stay? She asked, voice small and hopeful. I do, Jason replied, voice rough with emotion. If you'll have me. She hesitated only a breath, then leaned forward, her lips brushing his, soft at first, hesitant, as if both waited for the other to pull away. But then the kiss deepened, slow and sure, and in that moment, they surrendered to the connection they had built from necessity and chosen for themselves. Shira watched from a distance, her eyes bright with approval. When they parted, breathless and smiling, Jason pressed his forehead to Lyria's, sharing a joy that radiated through their bond. Their days took on a new rhythm. Lyria spent mornings in council, her voice now strong and sure, Jason at her right hand, advisor, confidant, beloved. In the afternoons they walked the city together, Jason learning the winding streets and bustling markets, Lyria introducing him to traditions and stories she had never dared share with anyone else. Shira was their shadow and their shield, the people's living reminder of all that had changed. The council's acceptance grew day by day, cemented by Jason's integrity and Shira's unwavering loyalty. Children ran to greet him in the palace halls. Merchants sent gifts, a hand-carved flute, a cloak the color of dusk, foods flavored with spices Jason had never tasted. He felt at last the tentative roots of belonging. Still, It was in the sanctuary gardens that their love blossomed most freely. Surrounded by ancient trees and luminous flowers, Lyria allowed herself to confess dreams she'd never spoken aloud. "I want to travel one day," she admitted one dusk, her voice hushed. "To see your Earth, to walk beneath those emerald forests you showed me in your memories." Jason squeezed her hand. "And I want you to see them. I want you to know every piece of my world, just as I've come to know yours." Sometimes words fell away, and they simply lay in the grass, watching the stars wheel above, the bond between them as easy and natural as the night breeze. As the new era took root, it became clear that theirs was not just a romance, but a union of purpose. Together they bridged old wounds, opening doors that had been closed for generations. On a morning like any other, as sunrise spilled gold across the city's rooftops, Lyria and Jason stood together on the palace balcony. Shira stretched out at their feet, her sides rising and falling in a deep, contented sleep. The city below stirred to life, bells chiming, traders calling, children laughing in the squares. Lyria's hand found Jason's, their fingers entwining with practiced ease. He turned to her, the connection between them pulsing with quiet certainty. "Do you ever wonder what comes next?" he asked, voice gentle. She smiled, leaning into his warmth. "All the time. But I know one thing." "What's that?" "Whatever comes, we face it as one." Jason grinned, pressing his forehead to hers. The city's noise faded, replaced by the steady thrum of their shared bond. Hope, love, and the possibility of a future neither could have foreseen. Shira's approving rumble vibrated through the stone beneath their feet, a gentle blessing for the dawn of a new era.